Well, Joy, I need to introduce myself and then we're going to introduce you. So this is Ruth Dameron. Folks have seen me on the Facebook pages and other places. And this is my daughter, Joy Ravenel. We're going to let Joy tell you about her success story. So Joy, tell us about your journey. And then when you're done with that, I'm going to ask you to tell us a bit about yourself. So first of all, tell us about your journey to what you consider to be a successful place in life.
I was born in Boulder, Colorado with an extra finger and low muscle tone. And we had no idea that would eventually lead to Bardet-Biedl syndrome. But as different items throughout my lifetime came along, we just dealt with it because we didn't have a name. And by dealing with certain items like balance, gross motor control, fine motor control, issues with vision, speech, language, we just took care of it with different types of therapies, such as physical, vision, occupational, speech, and language therapy. And when I was in middle school, an autistic group therapy to be able to come in and out of conversations and having volume control and items like that. In elementary school, not only did I do therapy in school, but also outside of therapy. And we also did activities for fun that I didn't realize at the time were actually therapy, like learning how to ski and rollerblading. And I had a 1x12, 10-foot long board that was my quote unquote balance beam, which I had a routine I did on for many years worth. In middle school and high school, I had great special ed teachers while I was mainstreamed all the way through school, elementary, middle, and high school with the help of special ed teachers. In high school, my special ed teacher recognized that my area of strength was in numbers, and she recommended to me to take a 2-year self-paced accounting course at the Career Development Center, which would give me credit towards the local community college. And I completed the program in a year and a half, which told me I actually understood the material and it could be a possible career, but I didn't know how bad my vision was going to degenerate. So after graduating from high school, I went to community college to get an Associate's Arts with an emphasis in business. While I was at the community college, it took me 4 years to complete it because I was kind of in the process of changing gears, shall we say, from the accounting field to possibly maybe math or history, but was able to figure out that I could stay in the accounting field with technology. And then I took a year off and then went to the University of Colorado in Boulder. And during that year, I got academically suspended, which was a hard and large lesson for me to learn. And the reason I got academically suspended was I did not use all the help that was available to me. Then I transferred to Metropolitan State College of Denver, which is now known as Metropolitan State University of Denver, or MSU Denver for shorthand. And at the same time I went to MSU Denver, I was enrolled in a private program called College Living Experience, or CLE for short, where they provided tutors for all my subjects and had coaches for independent living skills and personal financial skills. And you lived with someone else from the program in an apartment. And then in 2011, I graduated from MSU Denver with a BS in accounting. And because I had completed college, I was no longer applicable for CLE. So I transitioned into independent living experience, ILE, which you worked with one coach, and I moved into my own apartment. It was a small studio. And also I became a client of Department of Vocational Rehab, which they helped me eventually get employed, which I will give more details as I believe there's further questions down the road. In 2014, to be able to be qualified with SSI, I had to use up assets that I had accumulated from different sources so that I could become financially independent, and don't count against you owning your dwelling as part of calculations for getting qualified in SSI. So I bought a condo with those assets I had accumulated, which I now currently live. And in 2015, I officially got employed with the Bureau of Reclamation as a budget tech, which I've been with them ever since.
Okay. Well, we'll get into some more detail about how you actually ended up there at the budget tech job. But tell us more broadly a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in my late 30s. I live by myself in the condo I mentioned earlier. I have come to appreciate healthy living or a healthy lifestyle where I have someone come and clean my condo every other week. I order healthy, nutritious meals from Factor 75 that are already cooked and shipped to me every week. I have, in the last year and a half, have lost 50 pounds. Yes, that is correct, 50.
Woohoo!
And for exercise, I do rounds and rounds and rounds of stairs from my condo's patio down to the alley. And my condo is on the 3rd floor of the building. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and due to my really strong faith, it gives me courage to go out and do things. For hobbies, I enjoy following sports, especially the Olympics, listening to books and music. I have different groups of friends I get together with, and we do different activities. I have a pair of season tickets to the University of Colorado football, which it's really fun to take someone rooting for the other team, and it's a total blast.
Cool. So it sounds like you have a pretty full life. You're pretty happy.
Yeah.
So how did you actually get the particular job that you have?
Well, that had some twists and turns to get there. Partly on my fault for being stubborn about not adapting quickly enough. As I mentioned earlier, I became a client at the Department of Vocational Rehab, where they helped get me unpaid internships to figure out what type of accommodations I needed, from, say, the type of lighting to eventually using JAWS, job assistance with speech, which is a screen reader, to being all the way actually employed. They also gave me job coaches, and they also provide for the JAWS training. They also provide for other types of training to help in learning grade 1 Braille, touch typing, which I can do about 44 words per minute without looking at keyboards. Mobility, cane training, being able to cross different types of intersections safely. And after the different types of unpaid internships, I finally had to admit that I was not competitive by using my eyes, which I wanted to do, but instead needed to admit and be willing to adapt to have and use JAWS. Also, another aspect that I had to accept, which I think in the long run has helped me be successful, was to have counseling with an autistic counselor or a counselor who knew how to work with autistic people. And the main aspect of that counselor was that she gave me coping mechanisms, tools where I can handle noise, stress, surprises, and be able to stay in the room if it's too loud, or be able to process and stay focused and adapt to the most important item that needs to be taken care of right away. As for actually getting the actual job, Department of Voc Rehab, after I had the JAWS training, was willing to work with me and my independent living experience coach, which he had found an ad with details for the Bureau of Reclamation, to which he sent that detail to my Department of Voc Rehab counselor, and she contacted the HR person at the Bureau of Reclamation in Denver, Colorado. At that time, Daria, the HR contact, didn't have any openings at that time, but she was willing to do a mock interview so that I could have practice in a realistic setting. And during that mock interview, she was the one who informed me that an accounting technician position, those folks handle a ton of paper, both in and out of the systems, while a budget technician does everything, works with all the files already on the computer, which would allow for me to use my screen reader. And she had someone in mind that she was going to go talk to after the mock interview. So Department of Voc Rehab made arrangements with the Technical Service Center, TSC, that is part of the Bureau of Reclamation, to do 160 paid hours where Department of Voc Rehab was paying for it, not the Bureau, where the Bureau could try me out before hiring me up, shall we say. And the 160 hours was going to be for at halftime for 8 weeks. And 1 month in, my boss at that time came and said to me, "Well, hard worker, what a joy you are to work with. I don't want to hire you." So we hired me under Schedule A, which is a way for all of the federal government, all the different departments and bureaus that can hire above their overhead people with disabilities. It took us to get the paperwork done with the Bureau 2 months. And the reason for the delay is that this was over Thanksgiving and end of year holidays. And my paid internship hours ended in mid-December, and I continued to work for another month because we were in the process of getting me hired. January 11th, 2015, I was officially hired by the Bureau of Reclamation as a budget tech, and I've been with them for 6.5 years.
Wow, what a process. Could you explain tiny bit what a Schedule A position is with the federal government? Because that's what this was, right?
Yes. So a Schedule A position is a position that can be hired on for someone with a disability that's above the, say, Bureau of Reclamation's headcount, where as a Schedule A hire, your probationary period is much longer than a person without disabilities. A normal person, shall we say, that has a probationary period of 90 days where they have that to show them that they can do the job. As a Schedule A hire, it's 2 years long, but if you can prove that you can do the job, then they will convert you to a permanent position and you'll become part of their actual headcount.
Cool. So now that you've been working, you said it's been 6 years?
6.5.
What do you think is the most satisfying part of working?
Getting paid.
Right.
I can hire someone to come clean my condo because I don't like to clean it. I can hire someone else to cook healthy, nutritious meals and have them shipped to me when I'm exhausted from putting in a full day of work. I do like to cook, but more or less it only happens on the weekends when I'm not exhausted from putting in 8 hours of work. Also, I enjoy receiving recognition from fellow colleagues, both coworkers and general managers, where they are letting me know that they are appreciative of the work I do for them so that they can be able to complete their projects on time and within budget.
That feels good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. Besides working, do you volunteer at all in your spare time?
Yeah, I do volunteer. I'm my HOA's treasurer.
You mean in the condo building?
Yes, in my condominium building, I was at my first ever HOA board meeting that I attended. I was nominated and selected to be the treasurer, which I've held ever since. That's 7.5 years or so. Where when we self-managed ourselves, I was handling preparing the invoices, paying the bills, collecting the checks, doing the deposit, which allowed for me to get to know the owners that have tenants, so they don't live within the building, to know me. And it has made for the community of the building to feel more safe, because they make sure to try to keep the main pathways clear of tripping hazards. And before COVID hit, I was donating blood every chance I could, because they came to my actual office building, which it's a small inconvenience for me, but it's beneficial to someone else, considering my blood type is not quite the universal donor, but it's second fiddle.
It's second in line to what's the most usable blood type.
Yes.
Okay, so since you've been able to volunteer in a few ways, what does that mean to you? Why do you bother? What does it mean to you to volunteer?
It allows me to feel like I'm helping out the community with donating blood, and as being HOA treasurer for my condominium building, it has allowed me to get to know not only the owners that live within the building, but also the owners that live outside the building, and also have gotten to know all the tenants that do live within the building. And they're all willing to help me when I come and knock and saying, I need help, or may I borrow your eyes?
So you're more connected this way.
Yes.
And that seems like it's a really good thing, and it feels good to you too.
Yes.
Joy, it seems like there's been quite a few people and groups you've referenced. Who would you say has helped you along the way to get from, let's say, middle school to actually having a job?
Well, first off, I have to thank my wonderful and incredible mother, Ruth Dameron. She's been there every step of the way. She has pushed me when I didn't want it. She's loved me when I needed it. She's done things that are incredible, like she learned how to ski and rollerblade, so we could do those type of activities that were quote unquote therapy, that were not in a therapy session. In college, she read out loud my textbooks while I followed along in a large copy of the chapter on my laptop. She's helped me prepare for talking with people that I've never talked with before, first time, preparing for PowerPoint presentations, including this interview. My special ed teachers, both in middle school and high school, as they were willing to put in the effort to get to know me, and therefore were able to tell my teachers how I learned. And when I was part of college living experience, my mom taught my tutors and how I learned, where I had no problem in recalling and understanding the material. My issue was in expressing the material back out to be able to answer questions on tests and complete assignments. College living experience and independent living experience, where they helped with daily living skills, financial skills, getting around town on public transportation. And a lot of my friends from that program now will call me up and say, hey, Google Joy, how do I get from point A to point B? And of course I answer them because I know how to do so via public transportation. And my neighbors here in the condominium building, there's a total of 10 units, and they're all willing to assist me when I come and knock and saying, may I please borrow your eyes, for when the roof was leaking, to put pots under, or to change the batteries in the smoke detectors.
So Joy, what advice would you have to give to other people who have BBS and they are looking to become employed and also perhaps be independent?
One, be willing to be patient. It might take longer than what you're expecting, or there might be aspects where you might have to change, which I know a lot of us with BBS people do not like to change. We're kind of set in our ways in a way. But also that's another big thing I've learned is being willing to be flexible, being able to switch from one gear to another, and with a positive attitude. And as I think I said earlier, but I'll rehash it. Personal example for myself was coming to admit that I needed to learn JAWS, which if I had accepted that after one or two of the first unpaid internships by my Department of Voc Rehab counselor, I might have been employed a year earlier than I did.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Joy. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be glad they've heard your story. Thanks very much for sharing it.
Thank you.